Good day, everyone. All right, I'm going to start a little early because we might have some interesting levels coming soon, and better just to start now. After they've come, just sharing the link on Twitter. All right. Looking at a few things here. Just going to quickly review it. Same stuff I shared in the Discord. Be interested in these lows on Doge. I'm not going to go into the whole bullish thesis here, but any trades from here trading towards all-time highs. XRP targets quite a ways further, but it's trending pretty nicely to the downside. Looks like a big move to the downside could come quickly. Certainly possible to just run these lows and come up and retest some of these levels, but it's the kind of structure you're not surprised to see just roll over to a bigger move to the downside. Just this rounded, grindy structure like this, right? It looks like it's just like almost drawn on the chart. Like it's going to create a circle. So I just call it rounded, grindy price action. Not always, but oftentimes likes to roll over into a bigger move to the downside. So I'd be surprised to see something like that on XRP. Looking at this level down here on Trump, around 15.4. Old POC here. What's our POC even if we pull this back further? The origin of this initial impulse where we had a 15-second candle go straight up. I'm going to try for these highs, a little front run of this low. Be interested in this low as well. Maybe look to short that back down into the lows. We'll deal with that when it comes. I wouldn't be so surprised. It's always, this is quite a ways away relative to some of the targets on, say, something like Doge here. But XRP has had some pretty violent wicks to the downside. And so it's always possible. It can come really quickly. Looks really clean on the daily chart. There's a little wick here. The idea is just to come take out all these lows for a potential higher low for the bullish case. You can always break down, always using risk management. Going to be taking quite a few trades together here. Bitcoin, there's some ideas of us bouncing too. I wouldn't mind. I was kind of saying this in the Discord. It's like I wouldn't be opposed. Say we bounce and we front run these lows to shorting, retest of these highs. We have our point of control up here. It's actually not our point of control anymore. It was our point of control. But if you pull it across here, we've had more volume come in. Our point of control's down here. It's just a high volume area. We actually had our point of control shift a few times in here. Lots of volume down here. But anyways, I'd be interested in shorting that. I'm interested in longing these lows, but I'm also prepared for the breakdown scenario down to these lows. But it doesn't mean I'm not willing to take any other long setups. But anyways, I was saying, I kind of feel like, you know, in some ways, I feel like I should be shorting this test up here, and I should be longing a sweep of this low. But I also feel like I shouldn't be. It's just like, I'm not going to be surprised to see neither of those trades work, but I can't quite figure out why I shouldn't be taking them. I'm probably just going to take them, unless price just rips through both levels. It just seems like after this 2 weeks sideways, that whatever comes out of here isn't necessarily what I want to be fading, but there are some pretty bullish ideas off the 786 here. It's very clean. Trade it really small, really tight, off a sweep as well. Get some really clean ideas towards all-time highs. So anyways, I think these these lows are definitely interesting. And these lows, obviously this is possible, but there might be an internal setup there. I've gone over those a lot though, so no point in going over them again. Certainly could make the argument for just trading this pivot as well off Trump, but I'm not going to at this point. If we get the quicker move to the downside here, I'm going to look for this. I kind of like this idea of having this really... I went over this on yesterday's live stream. Just some local Elliott wave ideas. But the line with some nice levels. I like this idea of like having this really clean, grindy downtrend, looking like we're just about to the major low, bouncing, front running, and just running the liquidity on this trend line, and maybe come back for the low. So that's kind of what I'm trading around here. And then looking to trade this low back to these highs, if that all plays out. As far as order flow goes, it's like it's almost not even worth mentioning, but kind of just endless bullish divergences on every low. It's not that we haven't gotten bounces off of any of these local bullish divergences, but every time any longs come down, they're getting slammed down. These rallies are getting slammed down pretty hard. I think we were in the live stream yesterday around here. I was just pointing out big bearish divergences forming here as well. Bearish locally, and these have just been ending in more downside pretty quickly. Any longs come in, getting flushed out pretty quickly. So anyways, they've been flushed out again. So there's some ideas here of, you know, pushing up higher, front running these major lows again, and we'll see. We can see here, anytime we see aggressive market buying coming in, these rallies haven't been lasting for long. We have a big order come out of BTC USD, and we see here almost 50 million delta, this 15-minute candle, and followed by a big short, aggressive short opening here, 39 million, and that short's still there. So definitely a target to the upside to squeeze that guy out. And just relative to the type of volume and delta you see on this chart, this is significant. This is kind of like major low delta for a pairing like this, for this pairing. So anyways, I kind of probably lean towards a squeeze to the upside, and I'd be a little bit annoyed if that just carries towards a bigger move towards all-time highs, because this just looks such a nasty range, especially this wick here, to not come and just take this low. But I think it's possible. So what I kind of, yeah, I really have the feeling that fading any kind of impulse out of here isn't going to end well. These highs look kind of interesting as well. Someone's asking, can you suggest any indicators for some help in analysis? Personally, I just like using the structure of price. I pull fibs, and this is a volume profile. Just trending structures, horizontal structures, looking for signs of strength and weakness. Looking for signs of absorption and order flow. I don't use any indicators like RSI or anything like that. I am not in a swing long right now on Bitcoin. Let me pull up. Someone wanted me to take a look at Bitcoin dominance. Where's this alert set at? 24. 22. That's the daily chart. I wouldn't be surprised to see some weakness out of Bitcoin relative to alts. I've gone over this already, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. But I wouldn't mind seeing the move down to 85K on Bitcoin. Obviously, that may or may not come. You could see something like that. See these alts retrace some of their initial moves to the downside, but don't really have to come and take the lows on every single alt, which would result in some weakness on dominance. And then we could even see some of these alts. Like, I'm quite bullish on quite a few alts. I'm quite bullish on XRP, Doge. Some of these bigger market cap alts. I wouldn't be surprised to see some weakness out of Bitcoin dominance. But that could be first Bitcoin going down more than alts, relative to alts generally. And then Bitcoin pumping, but alts pumping much harder. Sandra says, I have discovered a loophole in RSI. I would like to demonstrate to you. Never bad to find a loophole. Yeah, throw it in the Discord. Yeah. As far as, I mean, there's a part of me that would be like, you know, it's kind of like, I mean, there's this idea of coming down to these lows, you know, certainly shorting this downtrend into this POC region, take some of these local highs. Could be interesting, a nice tight short setup. Should probably take it. I mean, there's a part of me that just wants to set alerts. I mean, these lows are interesting, and kind of like these highs are interesting on Bitcoin. It's you know, forcing myself to care too much about every candle inside of this range is not something I want to do. It's just hard to care too much. I think there are possibilities of front running this low, but I'll just look for setups elsewhere. Oh, I'm echoing? That's not good. But yeah, I was hoping to, let me pull this up. I was hoping to maybe get into some trades today. We're kind of right in that region where we might tap some interesting levels. I talked about Litecoin yesterday. Pulling it up on a different pairing. I'm bullish on Litecoin as well. Wouldn't mind seeing a higher low. You know, there's something, I'm being asked for my thoughts on USDT dominance. There is something to be said about, you know, I think I got, like, between Twitter, Discord, and maybe YouTube comments, like 3 comments that were something like, oh, I really wanted to hear your thoughts on, you know, the cycle, when's altcoin season, and different things like that. And it's, for me, it's like, it's almost like you can pull all these pieces together and be thinking about where's Bitcoin dominance and the USDT dominance, and, you know, thinking in terms of cycles. But at some point, you're just going to be trading levels, and the structure of a chart, like it's kind of low resolution in a way. For example, like I had a bullish thesis on Doge I was trading towards, a bullish thesis on XRP, but it's not really enough just to say, like, it doesn't really help me to say, like, oh, it's going to be an alt season, so, like, it's time to long a bunch of alts, because the idea is not really based off of an alt season on Doge or XRP. So in a way, it's interesting. The dominance can be a little interesting, but I don't know how much it's going to be a deciding factor on the trades I take. So how much time am I really going to spend? Because it's kind of like a low resolution way of looking at some of the criteria that you'd take for getting into a trade. Yeah, nothing wrong with using it as added confluence, but it's just, you know, I talked about Solana a little bit yesterday. I can pull it up. I think it looks pretty bad. for longs, but I mean, if it's going to bounce somewhere here, it might bounce here. I would like to trade it down towards these lows. I actually prefer these lows around $70. Probably look for setups at both of these lows. I think something that people forget is that for most of the time, a chart looks like this. Like when you're thinking about your expectations for trades, whether you're in a long from down here and you see these pumps, it's like you kind of get caught up in remembering some of this price action, but forgetting that 85% of the time it's coming straight back down, going up, down, and it's ranging. And so, you know, I put it this way, like if you're gonna have a swing trade thesis, it shouldn't be every day, certainly, because you don't have opportunities to get into swing trades that you're gonna be holding for 4 months in a trending environment where your entry's not gonna be wiped out or retested many times. You don't have those opportunities every day, right? So, like, that's why, I mean, something like this, for example, on Bitcoin, this is like an opportunity to get into a position and hold it towards all-time highs. Certainly. But you're not really taking that trade every day. Same thing with Doge. I mean, there's some opportunities in here to trade towards all-time highs, but you're probably not getting in that trade every day. You might take a few stabs at it over a central idea. But like this is an opportunity for me to trade this towards all-time highs. And if we break down, then there might be another setup lower, but can't take that trade every single day because you're just going to end up round tripping, getting chopped up. But some of these, like a trade like this, I'd be willing to round trip, for example, sizable. Like if this happened and we started impulsing out of this downtrend, you know, I don't think I would be looking to TP up here. I'd be willing to round trip a considerable amount of this trade as a swing, up to a certain point, of course. And I certainly wouldn't be taking profits off a setup like this locally. Because there's plenty of opportunities, you have them 90% of the time, to get into a trade that looks like this. And TP, cut 70% of your trade, stop to break even, and you know, you just caught, traded it really tight, and you just caught a few R here. You know, but that's not the context of this setup. This is the type of trade that you're not surprised to see it hold. So if we break out of here, I'm not looking to pull anything off this trade in this range. I'm looking to hold it higher. Definitely need to be a little wary of the range highs, but this is where I talk about taking hedge shorts, and I think most people get this, but a lot of people don't. Where I've said, you know, if you're super bullish on something and you've got a nice long position, instead of taking profits at the range highs, say we do this, why not hedge out your position? And what people don't realize, or some people don't seem to realize, is that you're actually better off in the bullish case here to short and get stopped out than to cut half your position, right? Because what this does, what cutting half your position does, if you're super bullish here, but you're like, we might keep ranging, I'd rather just take a 1 hour loss and then have my whole long position carry on, because suddenly closing half this position where I could have had 20 R running here, I only have 10 R. So I've cost myself 10 R at the range highs on a swing position, rather than just hedging myself, and I can take profits on this hedge to cover some of the risk in this position. I'm kind of neutral here. Like it's kind of like locking in profits. If you reject here, carry that back down to the range lows. But yeah, I can't remember the exact trade, but I've been in this scenario where I said that I think it was during a live stream, I'm not sure, but where I said I was taking a hedge short on my swing long because I was bullish. Like we were reacting and starting to have a failed breakout of some significant high. I said, I can't do nothing here because I just have too much running, but I'm not bearish, but I wouldn't be surprised to see a deep retracement. I'd rather just hedge out my position here and take a short stop than close. And somebody said, why not just take profits, just close half of it? And it's because I'm bullish. I'd rather short because I'm bullish. And I don't really want to close my position. There's nothing wrong with taking profits, but it's about trading your primary thesis towards its I kind of did this as a joke. Since it's all a mess on the screen, I just said this. I put this in the Discord and said I'm adding this to my vision board. But you know what's not a bad idea is to imagine. It's not a bad idea to imagine what the price action might look like at any given. Let's just turn off some of these. Turn off a couple more. Like this, for example, taking this short is not going to look very fun. But it looks a lot better after that, and looks really bearish with a major rejection there. But taking this long is not going to look very fun either. So it's kind of, not a bad idea to mentally envision what those candles look like, and the setups don't look particularly easy to take. Like even right here, this long doesn't look, I'm not in a long yet, but it doesn't look particularly good. Oh, I was like, what the hell? I didn't realize that this was this fake block I didn't turn off. I'm like, when did this happen? My level already got tapped and price wicked up, but it's the block. I thought this was a wick. Yeah, I didn't like seeing that. But yeah, so I was kind of hoping to get on this live stream and maybe execute some trades, but I don't really feel. I feel like there's a lot of impending levels that are really close that I'm really interested in trading around, and it's just a matter of if we take the lows or not on some of these ideas. XRP is still a long ways away. I mean, that could maybe also be an opportunity to think about this trade a little bit differently. That would have saved me a little trouble on a similar setup here. I do have a short running from up here on XRP. I actually have to take a leak. I'll be right back. Probably all the levels will hit while I'm gone. Um, Somebody's saying, and if Bitcoin retraces to 85K indeed, what is the reasoning behind you thinking Doge could only go down to 23 cents? Wouldn't this tank the entire market? I mean, I totally get that you trade ideas and it's probably worth a short shot, but to put some risk, but it's a genuine question I'm wondering. Well, you know, it's funny. It's funny because I've been in a similar position with Doge and Bitcoin where when I was swing longing up into the target was 42 cents down here, I had some bearish ideas on Bitcoin, and people were saying, well, how are you bullish on Doge and bearish on Bitcoin? And I said, you know, ultimately, I want to trade just because I have one bearish idea on Bitcoin. I don't want to refuse to take any other long setups. So it just makes no sense for me to sit here and say those 85K lows look really nice on Bitcoin, and so I'm not going to take any of these other setups on any other alts and just kind of put all my eggs in that basket. I think there's certainly ideas where some of these alts could not break down these big wicks if Bitcoin moves to 85K. I've actually explained this so many times, I'm not going to do it again. But hey, maybe Doge fills more of that wick. You know, maybe this happens, maybe we don't bounce at all, maybe there's not even an entry trigger there, and maybe we come down to these lows and take this wick again, and I might be trading something down there. But I mean, you don't really have to. I would say this is the simplest way to answer it. Is just go look at the charts over the last 4 to 5 years and look at everything in relation to Bitcoin. It's actually just not a very reliable way to think about the charts in terms of, no, like X can't go to X because that means this would have to go to that. No. I mean, I would say it's almost never an accurate assumption to make. We kind of just saw it, we just saw it with all these altcoins, ETH. Some of these moves down 60, 70, 80%. Well, Bitcoin's still just ranging between 90K and 100K. But if you told people the idea of some of these altcoins making the moves they did, or ETH, they'd say, no, that would mean Bitcoin would have to go to 50K. It really doesn't work that way. I mean, I've been having this conversation with people for years. Like I can just remember so many of these, like back in 2021 and 2022, just like, that could never happen on FTM because that would mean there's like Bitcoin would have to do this. I'm like, FTM just moved 50% 2 days ago, while Bitcoin moved 4%. Why do you think that? There's literally like 10 examples in the last like 3 months of the opposite of what you just said with those specific coins. And so I think people just say things. I don't know. I think they just have this assumption, make assumptions. Like there's another universe where, you know, obviously Trump just went straight up 66% and then straight down 40%, while Bitcoin did nothing. But there's another universe where this is a different coin that isn't like kind of in its own category, where people would say like, it's impossible for this to happen because Bitcoin would have to go to 200K and then it would have to go back down to 50K. It's like, there's so many examples of all these coins just doing their own thing on the medium to higher time frames. But that said, if Bitcoin goes to 85K today, I don't think this low holds, or this level holds on Doge. What could happen in relation to Bitcoin? Like taking that low with a move like this on Bitcoin would look really nice with Doge. And there are really bullish ideas from here, by the way, of this being a higher low and carrying towards new all-time highs, which is why I probably am just going to trade it. But there's ideas of something like this, and then this happens on Bitcoin. Let's just pretend. But during that time, this happened on Doge, and you're just like in an uptrend on Doge. All right, time to lock in here though, guys. These levels could come. It could come here. I'm actually going to update the Discord really quick. I'm always using strict risk management. I don't think these ideas have any edge at all over a series of trades with poor risk management. If you don't understand how to appropriately size your trades, then you're not going to have a positive outcome long term. But this is not a live stream to teach about risk management. Just going to get rid of some of the noise on the charts here. There's lots of scenarios, by the way, where we just keep ranging and these levels don't come, but there's also scenarios where they come very quickly. They come and go very quickly, so. The lows look like they're coming on Bitcoin. I'm looking for something like this. I'm going to chase it up with a market order. Some high delta signs of strength. Big lows about to come on Trump. Again, there's ideas of just wicking this low, but I'd chase it off the trend line somewhere rather than just trade this low. I want the PLC. I want these lows. But this is a pretty tight, high volume setup there. Little wick. But please just give this sweep on Bitcoin, a little bit of fall through on Trump. Keep an eye on XRP here as well, but nothing I can do about that, buddy. Me charting it's not going to change. I don't know where price is going to bounce. This is someone saying, please chart CRV, boss. I'm down 20%. I can't do anything about that. Like this setup, it's just a trade setup. It might not work. I'm not saying price will bounce here. I'm saying it's kind of a critical idea. I want to trade around, but I don't know where price is going to bounce. So all I'm doing here is taking trades with risk management. I don't know if my trades are going to work or not, but you make the plan to where you're going to limit the loss of your trade before you enter it, right? And then you size it appropriately to do that. There's no other way to consistently win. No one can analyze you out of your underwater position. And you have to watch the videos I have on risk management, and you'll understand why there's literally almost a 0% chance you don't lose all your money trading the way it sounds like you're trading. The only place to fix it is when you execute the trade. some positions rolling. Oh my God, 132 million delta there. So this is, I mean, this is either, this could be looking kind of good for these range lows. Like, this can be probably some nasty positions here. The idea here is if we just do this, I'm not in the trade. I'm just waiting for lower. I'm chasing, but these bounces can come very quick. And if I'm chasing, I'm just chasing with risk management. I'm not, I mean, I have a gut feeling that this trade's not going to work, but I'm willing to take it anyways because I really can't see a reason not to. And it would be, I would feel very silly if this happens and we pushed all-time highs and I didn't take this trade, so. I'm not a great blackjack player. I don't know how to count cards. I mean, I think I know the premise of it, but I've never actually tried it. If by great blackjack player you mean like a card counter that could be a winning player, no. Know the rules, the basic rules, yeah. So we have a ton of positions getting stopped out here. 135 million delta. It would be a literal crime to bounce without taking these lows, but we'll probably do it because I'm on a live stream. And if this selling can just cascade, maybe we're trading to 85K on this live stream. Or 83K I'd like actually, but we'll see. But everything looks good for this local setup. We have Trump coming right down to a major level. Bitcoin coming down to its major low, 786. There's a nice structure to reclaim there to chase in along. Doge coming down to a key idea, taking these lows. I just tap the 618 as well. XRP is coming to its GP. A little trending structure here. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see XRP bounce there, but yeah, I've been just chatting in the Discord a little bit. I mean, I've been talking about some of these setups throughout the day and a couple days on XRP too. But just noting how Bitcoin doesn't look awful because it's just in a range, but some of these alts look rough. And so some of that's playing out. These grindy trending structures like to end in impulses to the downside. Chatting about this in the Discord. XRP rolling over, Trump still rolling over, Doge still rolling over. Looking for those grindy trending structures to end in impulses. I have all my I have a bunch of tabs open to market order into the things I want to trade. All right. Something wrong with setting limit orders. You can use risk management, you can set limit orders. Most people don't have the luxury of being generally always available. Sometimes I don't. I set limit orders occasionally. Don't try to copy trade me, by the way. If you have no idea what I'm doing, what I'm talking about, I could lose all of these trades in a blink of an eye and be okay. I could take these longs and 2 hours later we're trading at 85K and everything's nuked 80%. I'm using stop losses. If you want to learn how to trade, take your time. There's plenty of opportunities, resources. Start with paper trading, low funds. Build up a personal track record. Slowly increase the size you're trading based on your own trading data. This is for educational purposes, education and entertainment. Maybe you'll see me get blown out of some positions. You can say, you idiot, I knew Trump was going to $4. I was like, oh, you're right. I mean, this looks impossible that these lows aren't coming. So the benefit of not having a limit order sitting here is if this happened and this is just like a holy shit, like price just running down, then I'm not in the trade. That doesn't happen that often though, to be honest. Like usually what happens is this, even in the bearish scenarios, and you get some kind of reaction. So, you know, for the difference, but this could just break down, no reason to get long, looks really bearish. No, I just chase the reaction on these setups. Someone asked, when you look for this type of reclaim with market order, do you wait for low time frame 1 to 2 minutes or medium time frame like 1 hour? No, I usually just chase it pretty quick. Just chase it on the way up. It's really just about wiping out all this liquidity. There's kind of two ways that it could play out. Like you wipe it out and you V-shape. I mean, we've certainly all witnessed some of those types of moves. If you've paid attention, this would be like a really dramatic one, right? Where you wait for a 1 hour candle and prices recovered half of the move towards all-time highs. But the other one is you kind of like range around. I'm talking about bullish outcomes, by the way. You range around for a little while, wipe out all the liquidity, trap some longs, retest it, maybe some shorts build up, and then you rally. You have plenty of time to make a decision. Sometimes you don't have that much time. But so the logic, just to break it down really quickly, of chasing certain types of reactions is just that there's so many, after this happens, there's so many scenarios that if this trade is not going to work, whether it does this, whether it does this, whether it does this, that you're in the trade in all of the other losing scenarios except for a couple anyways. So it's like you chase in the reaction, or you don't chase in, and then this happens, and then you're like, oh shit, do I just enter here and hope this trend, or do I wait for a retracement, and then you maybe take something like this, and then this happens. So it's like in all the bearish cases, except for a couple, you're actually just ending up in the trade anyways, if that makes sense. But what's happening if you don't take the reaction, this is just the way I look at it, is you're putting yourself in really quickly into a really awkward position if price V shapes. So you've eliminated one of the winning scenarios of you being in the trade, but you've also maybe eliminated one of the losing scenarios, which is there's a reaction and price goes straight down, but now you have to get into the trade still. And so you're still open to all these losing scenarios, and you have an asymmetric risk reward on your trade, and it's like there's just a lot of scenarios where I'm willing to chase the initial reaction off of a sweep of a level. Because say you don't, and you just even get something like this, and then suddenly maybe you're like, okay, I'm just waiting for these lows to get retested, then I'll enter, but they never come. And then you start getting some trending structure, and like, okay, I'll just enter on the trend line, and that gets front run. And the most egregious examples of this in recent history would just be any of these alts, but one like this level coming on ETH, right? Like you miss that trade, you're just not in the trade. I saw some really fuck it, let's go to the 5-minute chart. This is the 5-minute chart. So it's just like from here, you know, the next 5-minute candle price is up 20%. Someone says, and by the way, you know, when price starts coming down, I'm already kind of ignoring chat, but not really. But when it starts coming down, I definitely will be. If it starts coming down. Someone says, Money Tour often talks about freeing yourself of the herd mentality, like just deleting any importance of ideas held by 95% of participants. How can we start to do this? I don't know in that case. I mean, you'd have to know what 95% of people are thinking, so you'd have to be paying attention to everybody's sentiment. It's kind of hard to, you know, I think with social media, it's hard to gauge sentiment. It is. It's like you can kind of do it, but you can get in your own little bubbles too, right? Where, like, I could look at the sentiment of all the traders in my feed, but that's going to be different than somebody who follows a different set of people and whatever. So it's kind of hard. And then there's the sense that there's what people say and there's what people do, right? So I guess for me personally, I try not to really think too much about what other people are thinking. There's people that I really like their ideas typically, or I really respect their ideas, we could say, and they have a different idea than mine. I just trade around my own ideas. I might incorporate their ideas. So for example, I might say, okay, I wasn't looking at that setup, but I would also trade that setup. I'd be interested in that. I didn't see that. I wasn't looking at that, but that does look interesting. So I might trade it. But if I have ideas I'm trading and somebody else has their primary idea different, even if I think that they have good ideas, I just trade my own ideas. One thing I'll just say, like whether it's your own ideas, like you have conflicting ideas, or someone else's ideas, or whatever it is, if you like an idea and you understand it, or you have an idea and you understand it, oftentimes you're going to be trading multiple ideas, even of your own, right? So it's like, I don't know. I don't really think, for me, I really think too much about spending my time like eliminating bad ideas of like, oh, I don't want to be influenced by this or this or this. I'm just looking for, there's millions of ideas. I'm just looking for ideas I like, make sense to me, that look good to me, that I want to trade. Like, it's a no-brainer. If I take this trade, I'll just tell you, this trade, for some reason, I don't have a lot of confidence in it, and I think these lows are coming. I couldn't, maybe it's intuition, maybe it's whatever, it doesn't really matter. I'm still going to probably be taking this trade, unless price just breaks straight down, because there's enough strong ideas here. I should just be in it. Even if I don't think it's going to work, it's fine. I'll just take a stop. But if this happens, and I take a stop, and this happens, and I trade this level down 83K, and then this happens, I won't feel like I made a mistake. You know, that I have to trade those levels. I mean, I have to. And the reason is because these types of setups are I'm not gonna trade them once. I'm gonna trade these types of ideas thousands of times, hundreds of times. And these are the types of ideas I need to trade. So it's like, even if for one time, I'm like, oh, I didn't take the long, I didn't take the stop loss, and I saved myself a stop loss, it's like, well, I better be damn sure that trade's not going to work, because some of these trades are going to pay me 10 to 15 to 20x to 30x multiples on my risk. And so it's like, yeah, I even if it saves me from losing one trade that I shouldn't have taken, this intuition, this idea, but it cost me, following that intuition, 5 winning trades or even 1 winning trade, it's not worth it already. So these are the types of trades I need to be in. And I think something that people just don't think enough about is this looks so shitty for a bounce though. This looks like 85K is coming, 83K right here in the next 3 hours. That's what this price rolling over looks like. Like, this looks like this is coming. I'll just be honest. That's what it looks like to me. But anyways, we'll see. What the mistake people make, like, let's just say we'll just use these exact 2 long ideas. It's like, I could sit here and say, what I just said, I don't like this trade. I'll be more annoyed if this happens than I will if this happens and I take a stop. I know that. It's like, okay, yeah, I mean, that didn't work. But a lot of people will be like, I knew it, damn it. I'm never going against my gut again. It's like, okay, Nostradamus, how many times has your gut led you astray? It's like, just take clean technical setups. You know, people feel like they're so certain a trade's going to work and it doesn't. They're like, oh, I should have never got euphoric, or I knew that trade wasn't going to work and I took it. I should always trust my gut. And they're trying to like rework everything they do, every loss they take, right? So for me, this is just the reality of trading. If neither of these work, then is what it is. I can just tell you right now that, like, inevitably, I'll be on Twitter or somewhere and I'll be in this trade, and if it lost, somebody will say, LOL, didn't you even look at this trend line at the POC at this, blah, 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 blah. And I have levels down here that I think are interesting, but that's just, it is just kind of interesting when thousands of people see your trades, is there's always, anytime you lose a trade, there's always going to be hundreds of people who didn't have the same idea as you and had a different idea, and they'll say something like that. And it's just, you know, if you want to convert that into like your internal voice, your own thoughts that a trader might have in their head, it's like, oh, I should have seen this or that. But I will say this looks really bad. It looks really shitty coming into this level. It does not look like the thing I want along. But let's see. I do not think that's typically a good idea. Somebody says, do you think managing trades with trailing stop loss or early break-evens is a good idea? Or should we just allow the ideas to play out and just manage to get knocked out of the position? I think it's a really bad habit. Like, there's a point at which you can remove some risk from your trade, but like, people will, if say you get into this long and you're like, stop to break even, like, don't get out of the trade there. Typically you want to let your trades play out. But like, if this happens, is there a point where it just does not make sense to take a stop loss on this trade? Like, your invalidation isn't really taking that low for this setup. So it's like, okay, well, you can kind of, at least this starts to make sense. And then I would say that there's nothing wrong with, like, in an aggressive uptrend, there's nothing wrong with trailing profit taking. But as much as possible, you want to get into the habit, this is just my opinion, this is how I trade, take it with a grain of salt, of taking profits when prices going up. Like, you want to be taking profits somewhere here. You want to be locking something in here rather than like, oh, here. Like, I trailed my stop loss right above my entry. So, but maybe that could look like this. You have a trending structure and you're just trailing something under the trending structure or something up higher. Doesn't necessarily mean you need to TP the top every time, but generally speaking, you don't want to take profits at support on a long and on deep retracements. You want to lock something in higher. I'll say this too. I kind of like that this looks bad. I can never tell sometimes. It's like, does this just look bad to me or does this look bad to everyone? If this looks bad to everyone, then maybe it looks good. Maybe this looks super bearish to everyone. But to me, this looks quite bearish. So this is the general idea looking at here, but open to the big breakdown. And looking at a bunch of bolts. And XRP is bouncing right at the 618. And Doge. More heavy selling into Bitcoin, getting absorbed a little bit. It just depends on the situation. Allah asks, if you get in a trade but get stopped by a volume wick, but it started going the way you wanted, do you re-enter the trade? I'm assuming you just mean like a high volume wick. Like, let's just say, especially if you're scalping, and let's just say this happens, and you put your stop here, and this happens, and you see a big wick come down, but the structure you're trading is like around these lows. Like, it just depends on the thesis of your trade, right? Like, if you're trading a range here, let's draw some more relevant price action. If you're trading this as a range here, targeting these range highs, and you're trading it really tight, this happens, yeah, you might re-enter that trade back up to the range highs. Just depends on what the setup is. Like, maybe you've cut the trade with the idea of price breaking out or breaking down, but then it doesn't, and then you re-enter because it's back in the range. Some people saying price action looks bad. Adventure Player says it looks good to him. All right. At least it looks good to someone. This just has this kind of really bearish rolling over look to it too. So certainly up here, right? A little more volatility. I mean, this is just the type of... The 83K level's almost off the table, but this low, this intersection, we have, if we want to just tag this low, let me make sure every trend line, everything is pulled perfectly. I'm just curious exactly how much time we have. If we're going to tag this trend line into the lows. Some of you will remember I may have to zoom in here. Some of you will remember this bounce. It's actually exactly what I had drawn out on the chart here, right into that trend line. It's not broken down, but that has come and gone. We have few days. Could be a choppy few days. If we're going to, I'm not really worried about the 618. If we're going to take this last low here, to that. Okay. So we have, it's actually like a week. If we're being really generous, it's 9 days. And what I'm looking at is I'm just looking at to take this last low into this trend line. For a really quick, it's like this, right? It's like there's only so much time that this level exists on XRP, and at some point you just need price to go straight down, or it's, you know, if it's happening over here, it's not taking the lows, and so I'm just kind of thinking like, you know, what could this look like even? You could get, there's time for this. That would be more confluent with my idea on Trump. Although Trump's doing its own thing. So that's kind of looking sort of nice. Like instead of price just rolling over. I hate it on Doge though. Just bounce from wherever. This also makes this wick the 618. Oh, yeah. I could imagine this trapping a lot of longs. All right. I don't mind this. Probably how I would trade something like this would be hedging this with a tight short setup. If you've been in the Discord for years, you'll know that it's not that all these trending intersections have to play out, but you'll know that I oftentimes will be looking at how much time there is left for the trending intersection to align with the level, right? It's just to be aware of, like, if you want to trade this, is this, all of this kind of makes sense? I mean, if we're going to hit the 83K, it needs to happen in the next 8 hours, 12 hours. I like the 83K. I like the clean 618 off this impulse, but I mean, if this comes, then you're basically, this is the type of setup where, because you know price has to be moving so quickly to get here, it's actually not as few hours as I thought. It's 1 day and 1 day and 20 hours. You know price is going to be moving really quick into this level. It's going to, if this level bounces, then it's just going to, price is going to come down to it quickly, and it's going to probably move away from it quickly. So you're going to have a little window of time to execute a trade there. It's going to probably look something more like this kind of reaction, or like that ETH setup. But one of the reasons it's good to be aware of this type of setup is for anyone who gets scared taking trades that they would have otherwise taken if the price is moving really quickly into a level, just to be aware of like these types of structures, how they've played out in the past, might just give you the confidence to, not that you're risking any more than you otherwise would have, but just to get into the trades you have planned, understanding that like this is how these types of moves play out. They're very quick. They're very quick to the downside, and they recover very quick. So you don't have a lot of time to make the decision. And I guess it's a little bit of confidence in the idea that you're expecting price to move quickly into the level. There's instead of, if you have like a really, if you just have a naked chart, it's just, and you don't have any ideas, right? You have no ideas. So I think this is the position that a lot of people find themselves in. They have no ideas. They kind of think like, oh, Bitcoin's been ranging for several months here. I think we could probably be going up to 130K, and it would be really scary if we broke 90K, right? Maybe this is the extent to which they think about price. And they'd be like, but right now we're holding up and we're not going down. And then this happens, and they're out, either stopped out, liquidated, or maybe they've sidelined themselves somehow. They're like, this looks so bad. Oh my God, price is going straight down. And then this happens. And then they're chasing back in up here, right? But, you know, these really aggressive moves to the downside don't always leave you with a lot of time to make a decision. But if you have some level structures, plans, execute that trade with risk management, you're already ready. Doesn't mean it has to work, but at least you're, man, just looking at this chart, doesn't this look, it looks so unreasonable to bounce here. Looks ridiculous. But actually, it's also a retest of this channel, which was at one point in this range where I said I would consider flipping my bias to be more bullish if we break out and retest, which we're about to do. So, hey, you know what? That gives me a reason to feel good about this long setup. We take these lows into the 786, retest this. That's where I said I would look at getting bullish. Might be executing that quickly. All right, let's get rid of some mess here. Lows incoming. Maybe. Have that 4-hour wick too. whatever. I already know I'm in this trade if we bounce here, so no matter how much I think that we're going to see lower. Honestly, inverting the chart made it look not so bad to me. It just kind of looks like, oh yeah. But there's always a chance price just nukes the level. And I know that these lows, this is the problem. All of these lows are going to probably generate big reactions, and they might even be tradable. Like there's a big section of the chart here that's sort of left out of this discussion between this low and these lows. What about all these lows? And that might be, you know what? There's probably an argument to be made. Just put on a little bit of risk, split up some of your risk between every low. But personally, I think it's either going to be something like this or something like this. And I have no problem chasing some other local setup if I have to. The last comment said, please read the last 4 comments I wrote. It's a very important question in my technical or in my trading journey. They said, so you're entering a trade, you're basically betting on the probabilities of a technical idea. Now the technical idea could be trendline, SRs, or whatever. So whatever that technical idea is, you're betting 1R on it to work, right? So when you are managing a trade, when you're in a more than 1R profit and you don't TP because of a technical point, so if you're not taking profits based on a technical idea and price action, again, don't that mean you're risking more than what your risk management system allows you against your rules? So I think what they're basically asking is, if you're in unrealized profits, aren't you risking more than 1R? And you certainly are, right? I mean, unrealized profits are profits if you just click a button. And it's probably important to think about your unrealized profits as just risk that you have in the market still. Like anything can happen and that money can disappear. But I would say this, typically speaking, it depends what kind of trader you are, but like if you're in a swing trade and you're trading this as a range, like you could say, how did I make my chart so messy again? I turned on some folders. You could say, well, you know, we're rejecting from this SR level, and shouldn't I just close the trade? I'm at 1R profits. Let's just say here, right? Like, I mean, this is just going to be a fact. If we come down to these lows, these are going to be important levels to reclaim. We might reject. You might round trip the 1R. But here's the thing: what granularity are you able to manage this trade on? Because then are you then able to say, but we're holding up this, bouncing off this, we're reclaiming this. I'm just back in the trade now. Like if you aren't able to, if you're refining the way you're managing your trade for closing it at 1R profits, but you're not able to manage that trade to get back into the position on the time frame you're initially trading it on, and you can never actually turn a trade that's meant to be 6 or 7R or 8R or 9R into 9R, because you're always there's never not going to be a technical level that you should be worried about on a swing trade that you should at least consider making some decision on or feel like you need to between your final target and your entry. Like it's very rare that price isn't going to react. It's not going to do anything. But personally, I think that if you're being selective about the types of swing trades you're taking, then you're better off in most cases for most people not trying to manage those positions on a low time frame, because more often than not, that's not going to do you a lot of good. It's just going to put you out of positions that you should otherwise be in the context of that trade. But technically speaking, I mean, if you can get in here and you can make some decisions within the overall context of your trade, and you can lock in some profits, you can re-enter, you can take some hedge shorts, you can trade some of the intermediary price action, you can probably make some compounding improvements on your position. I wouldn't, but there's actually one thing I want to say. It's kind of confusing to explain, but you said, taking profits for a technical reason. And I would say, technical ideas typically are just you're using them in some extent to weight probabilities and to make decisions, certainly, but it's to give your trade structure, right? Like, where are you entering? What's the idea? And obviously, it's a lot of technical ideas overlap with liquidity ideas and other bizarre things like Elliott wave and whatever, but you're just trying to structure your trade. So like, you're not always going to say, oh, this is technical resistance, and if price reacts from here, I'm closing my swing trade. Like, you can't, maybe you're in here and you're trading, maybe there's a range and you're trading this as a range and you're taking a short and you're taking profits, but you can't make quote unquote technical decisions on every time frame, every leg of every trade, right? Like, it's important to be aware of relevant, important structure of price, but I would say, yeah, like, let's just say we're in this long setup, we start breaking out of all of this, price starts carrying higher. At some point, we're going to be in price discovery. You got to look at some reason to take profits. Some of those might be trending structure. Some of those might be ranging structure. Maybe we're holding up a trend line. So let's just pretend it's not so steep. Or is it steeper? Maybe we're holding up this trend line. We start breaking it down with like a triple top sweep of some highs. And you might just use that to exit just as a structural reason. You can always look for new setups. Man, it's ridiculous how long, like, if you're, whoever is holding along here, And inevitably we're going to see some massive volume spike down below. Just people hoping their liquidation and stop loss doesn't get hit. We might even see a big breakdown, but it's just kind of crazy sometimes how long price can just hover and like do this and before the level just gets taken. Someone's asking, what's the difference between a reaction on the level and a break of the level? Well, let's just use this as an example. A reaction isn't to say that if there's a reaction, the trade will work, but it is to say if there's not a reaction, the trade will not work, right? Like if price doesn't, so let's look at the 786 here. It's right under these lows. It's part of a big broader, some big broader Elliott wave counts that I mentioned that X-Force Global has. It's a nice little liquidity idea. We have big bullish divergences forming all throughout this range on Bitcoin. It's a nice idea for a higher low off this initial wick. So a reaction is price. This is the level of interest. Okay, this is the level of interest, the 786, let's say. This is the first structural level of importance. Like if price just breaks this low down and never gets back above it, then that is certainly bearish, right? So first off, does price even react? Does price even bounce off the level, or does it just go straight through the level? If it goes straight through the level, then that idea is not going to work. If the trade setup, if you're market entering into a trade, if the trade setup looks anything like this, well, you know with almost 100% certainty that it's not going to work if price, well, unless price just ranges here forever, is not going to work if it never comes back above this level. The 786 and the 886 to a lesser extent is a potential target for the move. Just put that on as well. Looking for price to reclaim these lows after ideally taking a bunch of stop losses, maybe trapping some breakdown shorters. So this is the reaction. This is the early sign of structural strength, reclaiming the level. It could happen very quickly. But if this doesn't even happen, then why even be in the trade, right? Like if the reaction doesn't happen, if price never even comes back above this level, it's just a breakdown. It's just a breakdown. Now, it's not to say that if price gets above the level, that price isn't going to go or can't go lower, but you are eliminating the most clear reason not to be in the trade, which is price is just breaking down. There's nothing happening here. There's, 1 minute candle after 1 minute candle after 1 minute candle is going against you without even a bounce. The level gets taken, this level gets taken. It's like, why would you even be in that trade? So that's a breakdown. Now, of course, we're on the 1 minute chart here. Of course, this can happen. And in my case, you're in the trade and you're taking a stop loss, potentially. Yeah, you can't. It depends on a few scenarios. Someone's saying, do you always long on a reclaim? In my experience, even sometimes when there's a reclaim, I still get stopped out. There are some caveats, certainly. Like sometimes you have really steep, clear trending structure that aligns super, super cleanly with your levels and your triggers, and it's like probably should be aware of these trending structures, because if they can't break, probably want to hang tight for at least a second. You can keep refining things, but there's no way to eliminate losing trades. Like you're saying, sometimes when there's a reclaim, you'll still get stopped out. Of course, right? If that wasn't the case, then just infinite money. Infinite money glitch. All in, 100x. If there's a reclaim, you're not going to get stopped out. But what happens is you can keep trying to refine to the point, because the biggest trap you can fall into is trying to avoid ever taking losing trades. So you'll say, well, sometimes I take it when it reclaims and it loses, so I'm going to wait for this to happen, then this, then this, then this, and you're actually just costing yourselves winning trades, trying to eliminate losing trades, and actually hurting your edge. I'm just going to be honest, I do not like this trade. I'm going to hate it up until the point that price goes straight up. Even if it reacts, I just don't like the idea. It feels so wrong to long this, but maybe that's why it's good. All right. Price is coming into the lows. Trump is almost at its lows. Doge is going to probably get there. I'm not really going to be looking at XRP. I've kind of explained what I'm looking at here. So now it's either going to be clicking some buttons or not. And FYI, guys, I'm sorry, but I know there's a bunch of people that want to try to copy trade me. My goal is not to have a bunch of people that don't know how to trade trying to peak a bottom some entries without risk management, whatever. I don't know. I actually don't like doing these public live trading sessions, because if you should be in these trades, you don't need me to tell you to get into the trades, right? Like, I've explained what I want to do. I've explained the setup. I don't know what's going to happen any more than anyone else does. I'm sitting here, I'm waiting. I might just get stopped out of these trades. There's a certain point where someone is sitting there and they don't know or understand anything, and they're trying to skip all the important parts about becoming a trader, and they're just trying to have someone tell them to take a long trade. And they're missing the entire point, right? So it's like, but there's obviously experienced traders in here, many in the Discord. But if that's you and you're sitting here and you're like, I don't know what's going on, but hey, I want to peek a bottom long Trump up to, $20. It's like you're missing the point of this whole thing. And by the way, I'm just going to be firing off some trades here. Like, I'm not going to be tabbing, explaining everything. This is for me for executing trades, if I'm taking them at all. So. $31 million, $36 million. Low not taken yet. Yeah, some of these shorts are feeling themselves. Gerard, they're saying, bro, we are about to go straight to Hades. P-Vice says, it looks scary. It looks like we might see negative 20% candle. I mean, frankly, I like that look a little bit if I'm going to be taking along. I want people to be sending massive shorts into this, and I want it to look a little nasty. But I want it to look nasty to everyone but me. And right now it looks kind of nasty to me too. But we'll see. Doesn't really matter. I'd say there's a 90% chance I'm in this trade, regardless of what I think. So. I'm probably not going to be answering a bunch of questions in the chat right now just because I'm going to be locked in, but just see one pop up here. Is it true that assuming the same EV per trade, a high win rate system is better than a low win rate system because you can win bigger? Are you saying like the same expected value? So are you saying if there's like you're trading a 5R system with an 80% win rate or a 5R system with a 50% win rate? Because, I mean, obviously the higher win rate system is better if everything's the same but your win rate. And yes, if you just have a 80% static win rate, you could justify sizing bigger than if you had a 50% win rate. But then the only thing you'd be considering is frequency. Like if the 80% win rate gives you one trade a month and the other one gives you 5 trades a day, then you might prefer the other. Someone says, Lucky Chart 8. If I join your Discord server, can I learn from you how to trade? Oh, that's someone else saying, how's Gerard? Gerard's a Discord member. I hope he is well. So subscription, can you help me with charting CRV? It's not really how the Discord works that I'm like helping you individually one-on-one sessions, although oftentimes interacting individually with members. But anyways, the way it works is there's a bunch of different channels. There's a bunch of educational videos going over specific concepts, lots of write-ups and things explaining concepts. There's individual educational content like this. So by topics, I click on the topics and there's different videos under the various topics and some slides. Then I just update the ideas I'm interested in trading, so Bitcoin, alt charts. So for example, yesterday, well, first off, I updated because back here before this breakdown on this invalidated some of my bullish ideas on Trump. So I was waiting for these lows down here, explaining some of that stuff. But anyways, just explaining my ideas. Yesterday I was interested in maybe taking a breakout retest long on Doge. I updated, looking maybe for the breakout. I talked about that on yesterday's live stream. I ended up not taking it because I didn't like how this was forming. But anyways, so I do live chart updates as examples of the types of ideas that are in the educational content. And then there's a pretty robust community of traders in here. that share ideas, very helpful and dedicated and nice and mean. But so what I would say to you, H, is you're saying, like, some people come in with an expectation of like, I don't know what your level of trading is. Just so you're the guy that was asking me to chart CRV because you're 20% underwater. You're saying if you join my Discord, will I chart CRV for you? What I would do is go instead of trying to make the Discord what you want it to be, like thinking, okay, if I join, then I can get lucky to chart me CRV so I can maybe get off this underwater position. I would just say, like, I don't know what CRV is going to do. You have to build a complete foundation to understand why. You just have to not be in the position you're in. Whatever you're feeling right now, and the way you're trading is putting you in that position, and you have to learn a bunch of stuff to understand, oh yeah, I shouldn't be doing that, and this is why. But you have to understand it. And there's no individual chart or idea that's going to, even if it feels like it could save you in this moment, you're going to put yourself right back into the same situation, right? So I encourage people that join. I think the people that have the most success, and you can read through the members testimonials channel where members have stopped by to drop in their feedback, is go through all the educational materials. It's not that much. I mean, it might be dozens of videos, but they're all relatively short. And then start working on your own paper trading, testing things out, trying different things. The market's not going anywhere, and start building that skill, and then applying it, getting your own trading history and experience, and then start slowly adding to a live money trading account. I think that's the best way for any trader to start. Is not to try to make a bunch of money day one, because there's just too much to know. There's too much to understand. And although it could feel like at any given day, like, I have the secret, I just learned about this concept or this concept, now I'll never lose another trade again. Those are kind of all illusions, and you'll think, oh, I wish I hadn't gone and thrown all that money at the market because I learned that one idea or that one concept. I wish I'd known all this before I did that. And any new trader is going to feel that way. There's really nothing you can learn in a really short amount of time. Like, you're not going to learn anything in a day or a week or probably even a month that has completely prepared you to start sending your life savings into the market. Someone says, I paper traded my system successfully, but we're going to have to get to the charts, by the way, soon. I mean, I'm going to have to trade this probably. They still feel like they're doing bad. I'll talk about it later. Looking at order flow here. We've double bottomed the low here. Yeah, I mean, that's one thing to think about. I mean, all Doge looks like it wants lower. Trump doesn't look terrible here, but I'd like to see lower. One more move to the downside would be pretty clean if these alts could follow. Beautiful. And you know what? Some of these levels I've been waiting to trade for a while, and that can always be a disappointing thing too, right? You have levels prepared, you execute the trades, and then they don't work. You were patient, you waited, and you were betrayed by the market. All right, we're lagging a little bit here, so I'll go back to answering that question. They said they paper traded their account system successfully, but they still feel like they're doing bad. But when they look at the results at the end of the week, they have done well. Any tips on removing the discrepancy in that feeling in the data? Well, it depends where the feeling's coming from, and I might jump away from this question for a second if we take this low. But it depends where that discrepancy is coming from. If it's coming from like a feeling of like, oh, I could have entered here and I entered a little later, I could have got an extra 2R out of this trade, or oh, I took profits, but then price kept going higher. Like sometimes it's really hard to get away from. You're never going to feel, there's maybe once in a while you're going to be like, oh, I shorted the top and took profits at the bottom, long the bottom and took profits at the top. Boom, I'm the best. You know, that happens occasionally, but a lot of times it's going to be, oh, I tried this long setup, it didn't work. I tried this one, it did work. I ran it to 4R or 3R. I took profits, but then price kept going straight up. I could have held it. Why didn't I hold it? We hadn't even broken down this trending structure, whatever it is, right? And so you're always going to be battling with feeling like you didn't make the perfect decision because something else is going to happen. And you can still be winning. So you can have that feeling of, whoa, I'm doing really bad. Like you feel the mistakes. It's like, but the reality is oftentimes they're not mistakes because you don't know what the market's going to do. You're trying to trade an edge within the context of a probabilistic environment. So you're not actually making mistakes, or you may be, but there might not be the mistakes you think you're making, and the things you think are mistakes might actually be optimal over a long series of trades, and the things you think are optimal might be mistakes over a long series of trades. So I would just say that, one, congratulations. If at the end of the week you're finding that you've done really well, even if you're feeling you're doing poorly, and just kind of examine where the feeling's coming from, I guess. Because if it's just coming from something like I just described, that's just sort of made up in your head, right? Like it's like hindsight analysis. Not always. But like, for example, let's just imagine the scenario this happens. And I talked about the idea of hedging short up there. But you just close the trade, let's say, or you take half of it off, whatever. You take profits. This happens. You have big, maybe this, and you have a big high volume wick here. And you just close it, and then this happens. Was it a mistake? I don't know. I mean, probably a lot of times in this range, you're really happy there to have made that choice. Like, it's just this, basically. And you've closed the trade there, and then you've rotated all the way back to the lows, and you know, but you're just looking at it at one instance, and it's like, oh, I should have held the trade. So I don't know if that helps you at all. It's kind of a hard question to answer, I guess. Just depends on what the source of your feelings are. Moritz is saying over the last couple of months he's got really good at identifying key levels because he spent a lot of time studying MT and zero, but I still lack in execution. I tend to panic when opportunities arrive. It is not even about my risk management. I just have a fear of losing. I can't stand the thought of losing. That is really problematic, and one thing I'm really working really hard on. Yeah, I think one thing that can get kind of, I don't know what the right word is, but getting too focused on like being right. Like, oh, like I got the perfect level and I did all my analysis and it bounced right where I thought it was going to, and you don't want to be wrong. Like, you're an idiot if you're wrong. It's really not something, like, you really need to embrace losing as a trader, as a part of your system. Like, the way you should really be thinking about it, like you said, you're not worried about losing, you have risk management, you probably have invalidation for your ideas. It's my stop loss is invalidation for my idea. Like, for example, I was taking longs. I don't even want to talk about Trump. I had the whole idea here, and I missed every leg up here. But a lot of people, traded my idea off of Twitter. They're sharing their P&Ls. I had Trump longs here into this retracement but my idea was if we can't reclaim this, if longed into this, if we can't reclaim this, then this is looking pretty bearish. And I don't really feel like an idiot, right? And part of that was also breaking down all this trending structure as well. I don't really feel like an idiot. It's just my idea has invalidation. So I went on Twitter and I just said, hey, I don't think the bullish continuation ideas, I think I said it like right here. Well, first I said, if this level doesn't reclaim, it doesn't really look that good for continuation. So I said that, somewhere in here. And then I said, hey, with this breaking down, I'm not looking for continuation on this. I think we could eventually see higher. I think it's more likely we see ranging, and I drew price coming down here, maybe up here, maybe down here, and up here, and down here. But it's like, someone could sit there and think, oh, I'm an idiot. Why did I ever think Trump could bounce there? But I just look at it as, my idea has invalidation. I just have to stick to it, right? Part of my idea is saying, hey, if we can't get above here, then it's just cutting it and looking for lower. And so your stop loss, like, for example, I might find myself in this Trump trade. I'm not going to look at myself as an idiot for taking this trade if it doesn't work. I'm just going to say, I have a well-structured trade here, and my stop loss and my sizing, that's all part of my plan. I'm getting out of this position on my terms. That's my plan. So look at your stop loss and your invalidation as part of your plan. It's nothing to be sad about taking a loss on an idea. Citizen says, what's helped me as a perfectionist was to accept loses, thinking I'm ready to lose X dollars for this idea and see it as one of my trades packages so it doesn't impact me anymore. Yeah, so basically saying, hey, I'm willing to risk this much money on this idea, and they just accept that risk. Someone says, I charted Trump before the data was erased off of TradingView. There was a huge support at 736. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely bearish ideas. I mean, ultimately, my whole context here shifted high time frame bearish towards towards some of these deeper levels. I think we could still see higher, but we'll see. There was a comment I saw earlier. I did want to mention when I was talking about the Discord. Jonathan said, I joined the group a while ago, now gone. I trade a different system now, but the underlying fundamental trading principles I learned from the group was actually invaluable. Yeah, that's one thing I do my best to focus on with the Discord is a lot of the things you're doing in trading, like it's not necessarily about the exact style you trade, the exact system, the exact time frame, ideas, whatever. There's all these fundamental principles that are going to be applied no matter what system you're trading that you need to understand. And you can kind of develop your own, and many traders in the Discord have your own system as a trader. And you know, I would say that the whole idea of the Discord is that people come, they learn stuff, and yes, it's a community, and like I really love the people that have been there for a long time. But if you want to move on, learn some things and move on, it's not a signals group, right? It's not like everyone's in the dark, they have no idea what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and I'm just posting long at 15.422, stop at 14.8, target 22. I'm explaining what I'm doing and why, and they're all based around repeatable ideas, concepts that you can apply on your own. Ultimately, I want people to be, I don't think you can be a successful trader without being confident and independent in the ideas you're trading, to where, like for example, I can see an idea that someone else charted and I like and trade it, but it's because I understand it, right? So I'm not going to be able to see some concept or idea that somebody else has charted and not understand what they're talking about or why and trade it, right? I need to understand it. So I kind of take that approach with the Discord, is focus on learning the principles and concepts and applying them to your trading. All right, 94 million delta here, 98, 94. All right, folks, this is the moment. So I've chased into this position. Just update the Discord. we can keep an eye on this. Initial move here. Big delta at the lows. It's got some aggressive longs chasing in now. I'm actually going to break this up just at on the 1 minute chart, just so I don't have to do the math for you guys. But this is a beautiful reaction so far. And you just want to start seeing strong continuation and follow through. Yeah, I'm going to get, downtrend hasn't broken yet, but I think I'm going to get front run on this on Trump. All right, keep an eye on order flow here. So this is where things are kind of important. So these are 1 minute candles here. Kind of see what people are doing. Some big shorts opening here, 16 million. But here, all the stops taken, 96 million delta in this candle. So one thing I talk about is that around major lows, you want to see high delta candles, or major highs, high delta candles. It's not that every high delta candle is a major low, but it's rarely a major low without one. Now these can come back and get retested, and we could chop around here for a little bit. But we chased into this position, and we also see other people chasing in. So just imagine some percentage of these people were waiting for this level, and some percentage of these people have just had their stops taken, and then they see price bouncing. Like they just thought, okay, it's going to break down. We're going to nuke 20%, like that guy in the chat said earlier. It looks like we could just go straight down 20%. So they just won out of that trade. And then they see price coming up, and they're just entering back into the trade. So you have 14 million, 10 million, 18 million, 8.7 million. Now, if we were on a higher time frame candle like we were before, we would have seen that delta went from 98 million to back up to 70 whatever and whatever. But I've broken up into 1 minute candles. So we can see all the longs stopped on this 1 minute candle, these longs chasing in open interest increasing. So on the other side of these longs chasing in, you can't just buy into nothing. You can't just long into nothing. There's limit sellers here, and they're taking on risk too. So there's limit shorters shorting this reaction to the tune of, on this pairing, almost $40 million in these last few minutes, 40, 50 million. So that's not in that, even though this is a high delta wipe here, that's not inconsequential, let's say, to run all those positions again. I think there's a little bit of an example of it here where we had a pretty big wipe, and then some positions come back in, get absorbed a little bit, push back out. This was a huge candle too, by the way, 128 million in that 1 minute candle. So something to consider is we had 128 million here, and we still saw lower. But anyways, we'll see what happens here. I've already told you I don't have a lot of faith in this position. Already you don't love to see some of this, but you're kind of a long ways between your entry and invalidation at this point. Retesting the level. Like you're kind of in this trade at this point throughout any of this price action, or I'm in it anyways. But I don't think it's as likely that it's going to V-shape. So now we kind of see what happens here. So we have all these initial stop losses taken. We have some longs chasing in. They're gonna probably get targeted here. And they might close quickly, they might flip short. But I would say this is unlikely, even in the bullish scenarios, to just do this. This looked okay. We have all these longs chase in, and they're getting put underwater now. So they're probably gonna get sent out. And whether that's for a local bounce, we front run this 786 a little bit, or for a breakdown, we don't know. But it really can't be, for me, this is not something I'm going to be opening and closing positions off of at this point. There's just too many scenarios where we're ranging and you're just opening, closing, opening, closing, opening, closing, because you think, oh, it's a breakdown, it's a breakout, break it. The fees are just too high. You can do stuff like that with Rollbit, but someone's asking if this is always how simply you view a reaction. Well, you know, you could say in some sense it's simple, but what's not so simple, here you have big shorts, aggressive shorts opening, by the way. We want to see this. We want to see these really aggressive shorts opening at the lows. It's on a different pairing, but that's nice to see. Something to squeeze out there. It's not so simple in the sense that 100 million delta in a 1 minute candle is a lot. That's a lot. Like that's not happening. It happened here. So we flushed out a ton of positions here. And so we kind of have, like we can see it in the CVD line here. We've flushed out a ton of positions. We've taken some lows, and it's like, it's not just that price tapped a level and then a 1 minute candle went up. It's also just considering we've taken a ton of this liquidity here. Let's have some aggressive shorts opening. So something that is happening is you have like sidelined traders now, right? Like you have a lot of people who wanted to be long and they're all stopped out of their longs. And now they could be fodder for price if we can start breaking up higher to start pushing price higher with aggressive longs above. But something to be wary of here, just or aware of, is as we see more and more aggressive longs opening, 14.2 million, 18 million, 8.7, get a little bit of a bearish divergence forming here. There's certainly some work being done to hold price down here. Just something to be aware of. It's just observing what's happening, right? Like not everything has to be a trade or actionable, but it's just a fact. 15 million in this 1 minute candle. See these long positions up here. For every long, there's a limit sell order here, taking the other side of that. And it's all risk on, increasing open interest. So limit trader looking to, you would imagine push price lower. That's typically why you limit short. But yeah, technically we just have a big wick through the low. Trending structure kind of wick through, but if you had to ask my guess, it's that this isn't going to really hold that nicely. It might get messy if it holds at all. The nice news about another move to the downside is we get these lows on Doge, and maybe this set up on Trump. What can happen with these positions? Not always. Just run these lows one more time. Flush them all out. Trade back up into here. Maybe this is where people start shorting and squeeze them out. But yeah, that's just guessing. You know what? If this trade doesn't work, I'm blaming X-Force Global. I wouldn't be in it if it wasn't for him. I'm just kidding. This is just my own template that I made. For XO. It is in the Discord. I haven't thought about that. I just saw someone said, are the XO templates for members only or available to everyone? They're only in the members, they're in the order flow educational channel, but in some ways it's kind of funny because I guess I'm happy to be in this trade if it works. But I would rather be in this trade almost so much more. This is the kind of trade that you don't care if you're stopped out. You don't care what happens after anything after the initial rally. You're just happy to sit in this trade towards all-time highs. It's like if you get this setup, you're just so happy to be in it, and it's kind of feels like it's worth taking a stop loss here if we could get something like this. It'd be just such a comfortable trade to sit in. Oh, I was on the wrong screen. I was just pointing out the 85K level. If we could get this quick move down by tomorrow. So this is going to be a situation, although this trade's essentially at break even, right? Plus or minus fees, where someone could say, you enter in on the reaction and then price breaks down, flips level, and it indeed is. And it's I entered in on an aggressive reaction, and had I just waited for this, that, or something else, I could have avoided being in this trade at all. Now, the truth is you probably can just get out of this trade with a minimal loss if you ever wanted to. I would be wary, maybe you're out of this once, right? And you're in it on one other trigger. I mean, this doesn't look incredible, frankly. But I'd be wary of doing that too many times around a level, right? Because this just gets kind of weird if you're going open, close, open, close, open, close, open. But anyways, but the nice thing about being in that trade is because what's likely going to happen in both the bullish and the bearish scenarios, the nice thing about being in this trade here is that you're exposed to this idea already of just reaction, price goes straight up. You're also already exposed to 4 or 5 of the other entry ideas that you inevitably would have just taken anyways. There's kind of one idea which might happen that you would have avoided, which is this, flip, and just nuke. Kind of in this in all these scenarios anyways. Divergence, that there's some aggressive buying getting absorbed here and the seller's bigger.